Hey everyone, welcome back. So today, we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's all about how one faith tradition is really empowering its youth to become leaders.
Leaders of change.
Leaders of change, you got it.
Okay, interesting.
It's going to be really interesting to unpack, especially if you're interested in how different communities out there are approaching this whole idea of, social transformation.
Because there's so many different approaches.
Right?
And it's always fascinating to see how different groups are handling it. Because a lot of times actually, young people kind of get
pushed to the side.
Yeah, they get kind of relegated to the future category.
Right, exactly.
But this is showing how young people are actively shaping things right now.
Absolutely. And the tradition we're diving into today is the Baha'i faith.
Okay.
And their whole perspective on youth is really rooted in these teachings from Baha'u'llah Abdul Wahab and the Universal House of Justice.
Right.
And what's really interesting is it's not just saying that youth are important. They actually have some really concrete programs in place to back it up.
Oh, wow. So it's not just lip service. They're actually putting their beliefs into action.
Exactly.
I'd love to hear more about these programs.
Yeah, so one that really stands out is called the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program.
Okay.
Or JYSEP for short.
JYSEP. Got it.
It's specifically designed for those really crucial developmental years between ages 11 and 15.
Oh, middle school.
Yeah, basically middle school. Think about that.
I can only imagine trying to guide young people at that age.
I know, right? So what does this program actually involve?
Well, it's really not about control. It's about empowerment.
Right.
And JYSEP has 3 core aims.
Okay.
They're cultivating a strong sense of purpose, building those practical skills for service to others, and then promoting a service-oriented mindset.
Okay.
And they actually do this by using specific texts like breezes of confirmation and glimmerings of hope, which explore themes of justice, unity, and serving others.
Okay, so those are pretty weighty topics for middle schoolers.
They are.
How do they make those ideas relevant and engaging?
Right. Well, that's where the spiritual empowerment part comes in.
Okay.
These texts, they're not just dry textbooks.
Right.
They're designed to spark reflection and conversation. And a key aspect of JYSEP is that older youth are actually acting as mentors.
Yeah, okay.
And they're guiding the younger participants.
Gotcha.
And they train them in leadership skills, how to have those constructive conversations, how to make decisions together, and even plan service projects.
So it's really hands-on.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have any examples of the kind of impact these young people are having?
Yeah, we're talking about junior youth all around the world.
Wow.
Leading neighborhood cleanups, planting trees, even bridging that gap between generations by having these conversations about community needs.
That's amazing. Can you imagine a group of 13-year-olds organizing a neighborhood cleanup?
Yeah.
Not because someone told them to.
Right.
But because they felt empowered to make that difference.
It's pretty incredible.
That's huge.
It highlights how the program is combining that practical action with spiritual understanding, leading to that tangible change.
Right.
And speaking of active contributors, the Baha'i faith doesn't stop at empowering those junior youth.
Oh, really?
They have a framework for older youth to step into leadership roles, too.
Okay, so what happens when these kids graduate, so to speak, from the JYSEP program? What roles do they take on?
They step up in a big way. They often become those teachers, tutors, and the organizers of these study groups that focus on spiritual learning.
Okay.
It's fascinating to see them taking ownership of their faith and finding creative ways to share it.
So it's not like your typical sit in a pew kind of religious education.
So no.
What are some of the ways that they're making it innovative and relevant for?
Yeah, what are those methods?
For their peers.
They're really tapping into art, music, and even those digital platforms to engage today's youth.
Oh, wow.
Think spoken word poetry slams.
Oh, cool.
About social justice.
Yeah.
Creating those online spaces for interfaith dialogue or even composing music that reflects their spiritual values.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a far cry from the dusty hymnals,
Right, exactly.
you might imagine.
I love that they're not afraid to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to meet those young people where they're at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, they're actively championing social transformation.
Oh.
You'll find them at the forefront of initiatives addressing those critical issues like environmental sustainability, promoting that interfaith understanding, and tackling those systemic inequalities.
Wow, that's impressive, but I imagine it can't always be smooth sailing
Right.
for these young people trying to make a difference.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, they probably face some pretty serious challenges.
For sure.
So how do they deal with that? Like the realities of just being young, you know?
Yeah, they've got school, jobs, social pressures.
Exactly. How do they find the time and the energy for all of this?
Well, it's about recognizing those are real obstacles and finding ways to address them.
Right.
You know, the Baha'i faith really emphasizes this flexibility in service.
Okay.
It's not about, like, rigid schedules or unrealistic expectations.
Right.
They're more about finding ways to integrate those acts of service into daily life.
So it's more organic.
Yeah, make it a natural extension of who they are.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
But what about that apathy piece?
right.
How do they stay motivated when the people around them just aren't interested in getting involved?
That's where building those genuine connections comes into play.
Okay.
The Baha'i writings really emphasize the importance of friendship
Okay.
and creating those spaces where people feel welcomed and valued, regardless of their beliefs or their level of involvement, you know.
So it's more about just being open and welcoming?
Yeah. It's about inspiring action in others by creating that sense of shared purpose
Yeah.
and belonging.
So it's not about preaching or trying to convert people.
No, not at all.
It's about leading by example
Right.
and showing them the joy and the fulfillment that comes from serving others.
Exactly. And it's not about sugarcoating reality either.
Right.
The Baha'i teachings acknowledge that it's a difficult landscape,
Yeah,
you know, for young people today.
for sure.
There's that constant pressure from social media, anxieties about the future of our planet, and those deep-seated inequalities that persist.
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming at times, even for us as adults.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do they navigate all of that
Right.
and still stay hopeful and motivated?
Well, the Baha'i writings offer some really valuable guidance here.
Okay.
They emphasize that need for inner strength, moral courage, and a clear sense of purpose. And this isn't just about individual resilience. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and working together to create a better world for everyone.
So it's about recognizing those challenges, but not letting them paralyze us.
Right. Exactly.
It's about finding that inner strength to keep going, even when things are tough.
Exactly. And the Baha'i teachings take it a step further.
Oh, how so?
Their governing body, the Universal House of Justice, actually encourages youth to see themselves not just as local change makers, but as contributors on a global scale.
Wow, that's a really powerful message.
It is.
How does that translate into action, though?
Yeah.
Like, how do you bridge that gap between aspiring to make a difference globally
Right.
and actually doing something concrete?
Well, one way they foster this global consciousness is through youth conferences.
Okay.
These gatherings bring together young people from diverse backgrounds and cultures, create those spaces for collaboration and learning.
So it's about breaking down those barriers and recognizing that we're all part of one human family
Yeah.
facing similar challenges.
Striving for a better future.
Exactly. And these conferences aren't just about talking.
Right.
They're about sharing those stories,
Okay.
learning from each other's experiences, and sparking new ideas for action.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, hearing those firsthand accounts from young people who've overcome incredible odds to launch community projects, challenge prejudice, or inspire others to get involved in social change.
Do you have any, like, specific examples that come to mind?
Oh, there are so many inspiring stories.
Like,
Like during one global youth conference,
Yeah.
a group of young people from a rural village
okay.
shared how they transformed this polluted riverbank into a thriving community garden.
Oh, wow.
And they faced resistance at first,
I bet.
but they persevered, mobilized their peers, engaged local leaders. Ultimately, they turned a source of blight into a source of pride and unity.
That's a powerful story.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
So it's clear that the Baha'i faith has this really comprehensive approach.
Yeah. to youth empowerment. But, I'm thinking about our listeners who might be from different backgrounds, different faiths, or maybe no faith at all. What can they take away from all of this?
Yeah.
How can they apply these principles to their own lives and communities?
That's such a great question.
Yeah.
And it really gets to the heart of why we're doing this deep dive. The Baha'i approach offers these valuable insights that can be applied universally,
Okay.
regardless of your background or your beliefs.
I like that. So it's not about converting people to a specific religion.
No, not at all.
It's about extracting those universal principles and putting them into practice in our own contexts.
Exactly.
So where do we even begin?
Right?
It can feel so overwhelming to try and tackle these big issues.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to solve everything at once. It's about starting small, focusing on what you can do within your own sphere of influence.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Start small, but what does that actually look like in practice?
Right.
Could you give us some concrete examples? Like, let's say you're a teacher.
Okay.
How would you incorporate these principles into your classroom?
Well, you could start by incorporating the principles of consultation and collaboration into your lessons.
Okay.
Instead of just lecturing, why not give your students a voice in the decision-making?
Okay.
Let them help shape the curriculum, design projects, even come up with those classroom rules together.
So it's about shifting from that top-down approach to a more collaborative learning environment where the students feel like their opinions and ideas are valued.
Exactly. And it's not about chaos or letting the students run the show.
Right.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels empowered to contribute and learn from each other.
I love that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that quote we talked about earlier about the eagerness to learn and the capacity to lead.
Yes.
It's about recognizing those qualities in young people and creating opportunities for them to shine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a teacher to make a difference.
Right.
Think about the young people in your life.
Okay.
Maybe you have a niece or nephew, a neighbor's kid, or even a mentee at work.
Uh-huh.
You can apply these principles in those interactions with them.
So what would that look like?
Yeah, give me some practical tips.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as having a genuine conversation with them,
Okay.
asking about their interests and their dreams, and really listening to their perspectives.
Okay.
Or maybe you could offer to share your skills or knowledge.
Yeah.
Teach them something you're passionate about.
So it's about recognizing that we all have something to offer.
Yeah.
And that mentorship doesn't have to be this formal, structured thing.
Right.
It can be about those small but meaningful interactions
Exactly.
that show young people they're valued and supported.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about having all the answers or trying to mold them into a certain image. It's about walking alongside them on their journey,
Yeah.
offering guidance and support, and allowing them to discover their own unique path.
I think that's a beautiful way to frame it.
Oh, thanks.
It's about empowerment, not control.
Exactly.
It's about creating those spaces where young people can explore, experiment, and ultimately discover their own potential.
And that's something we can all contribute to,
Right.
regardless of our age, profession, or background.
Absolutely.
It's about creating a culture that values and uplifts young people, recognizes their contributions,
Yeah.
and empowers them to be the change makers we so desperately need.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating topic,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Think about the young people you interact with.
Uh-huh.
What's one small but meaningful action you can take to empower them this week? It could be a word of encouragement, a listening ear, an invitation to collaborate, or simply just acknowledging their presence and valuing their perspective. Right.
Remember, even the smallest actions can have a ripple effect,
Yeah.
inspiring hope and creating a more just and compassionate world for generations to come.
Beautiful.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.